back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Wow, today we're going to have another really interesting show. We're having a roundtable with teens in the environment. This group of teens will be joining me to discuss their amazing work in environmental activity, largely around water, but not only. They are getting educated, and now actually they're educating others about the environment. They're dealing with a very specific problem in the Oakland Public Schools of lead in the water. And they're properly horrified by it. And they're educating people about it that can make a difference. And not only that, they're not waiting for government. They're not even waiting for parents or the PTA or anyone to get involved. They are doing it themselves. They're taking the ball into their own hands and running down the field. And you'll be learning about what that looks like here today from them directly. It's just a real honor to be speaking to young people who are taking the situation of the environment in general and of water in particular and dealing with the issues at hand and coming up with solutions. And also, by the way, using media as part of their broadcasting the information to those who are interested and can make a difference. So welcome so much to A Better World. Great to have you all.
Thank you so much for having us. We're very excited to be here.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So what I would love for you to do, each of you, is just introduce yourselves to our audience so they can get to know you. And then we'll go into a couple of questions that you'll answer about the subject. Carolyn, would you start us off?
Yeah, I would love to start. Hi there. My name is Carolyn Considine. I'm a sophomore at Stanford. I'm from the Bay Area in California. I'm very passionate about social justice, about the environment, regenerative farming. I am a co-founder of Meaningful Teens, which is a nonprofit teaching literacy and ELL, English language learners, to low-income and immigrant children, as well as senior citizens. We have over 3,000 students tutoring over basically 3,000 children slash senior citizen tutors being tutored. And I'm just very passionate about that. I've been doing it since 2019, since the pandemic hit. And so we've grown since then using Zoom as an amazing platform to connect people. And we're just so excited to be here today and talk more about environmental justice and youth involvement.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you, when your mother helped to start or did start Meaningful Teens, which is a nonprofit, is that?
No, I was just my brother and I and our good
Oh,
friends at Pelly's. So no, it was just us. It was all youth led.
oh my God. Okay, even greater. Amazing. That's great. Carter, would you just introduce? Thank you so much, Carolyn. Wonderful.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carter. I'm also the co-founder of Meaningful Teens, so I've been working with that. I'm also working with a company called Kiko, and so they have volcanic rock that's been heated and cooled, and they place it in water, and it changes the frequency of water. It's really amazing. It allows sunlight to come through, really help clean up the water ecosystem, and it also activates microbes in the water to kill off some of the algae. So I've been testing that around the country. Really excited to test it here in the Bay Area. I'm also really interested in helping AWG machines, or creating these AWG machines that sucks out air from
Please
the.
define that for our
Yes, yeah.
audience.
It's atmospheric water generator machines. And so in Oakland, they're having a lot of trouble with lead in the pipes. It's just really hard for students to get clean and healthy water, which I think is so right for everyone. And so we're helping kind of fundraise for these AWG machines that they can put in the Oakland schools that will suck up air from the water and help to create clean water that doesn't need to kind of be filtered at all from the lead that's in the pipes. And also, like Caroline, I'm also really interested in regenerative agriculture. So I'm researching that and hoping to create a paper with a NYU professor.
Oh, yes, exactly. So you are a student of an NYU professor, but how old are you?
I'm 17.
And so you're going to high school still, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm a junior in high school.
But you're taking a university level class in New York City with an NYU professor.
Yes, it's a mentorship, and I'm also taking a class at Tomcat Ranch, mostly for farmers. But it's just kind of really interesting, kind of being around them and kind of learning some of the ropes of regenerative
Oh,
farming.
that's fantastic. That Tomcat is Tom Steyer's family's ranch. Is that it?
Yes, exactly.
Right, exactly. I reached out to him when he was running for president to have a chat with him about these things we're discussing here. And it was really hard to get through. but but he's a great guy. I mean, he was one of those folks running on that level that could really make a difference environmentally. So I was really, really behind him. That's wonderful, Carter. Just a pleasure to have you all on the phone here and on our call here. Kira, would you please say hello to us?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Kira. I am a senior at Encinal High School, so we're located in the Bay Area as well. I'm also one of the co-founders of Ecotech Teens. So our goal is to spread awareness and bring updates on the current fights and innovations of against climate change. And we also do a podcast, and we're creating a curriculum for our community that Ella can talk more about. And I'm just really interested in the technology side. I'm really interested in seeing what people are doing all around the world. And that's what I do with the podcast. I conversate with a couple people you guys may know, and I just learn about what they're doing, what their impact is, and how we as students can help fight with that and help join them with that fight.
Oh, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. So a high school student involved, and so is Ella, right? Actually, so Carter, you're still okay. Carolyn's the elder of you all. Is that right?
The old lady, yes.
Not quite, but it's funny, right? Great. Thank you, Kara. That's wonderful. Great work. Ella.
Okay, hello. I'm Ella Tam. Like Kiara, I'm a senior at Encinal High School, and I've also helped to work with Ecotech Teens, building the podcast and the curriculum, really just helping to educate children about like what they can do, their impact, and yeah, learn about these cool technologies.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, we have beyond here a lot to talk about because I am a magnet for such technologies. I don't know why, because I'm a non-techie, but somehow they all find themselves to me. And it's been exciting. It's been a great journey for a long time, frankly. So, well, that'll be fun for another day. But right now, I'd love to hear what you're doing. I know you went on a trip. I just think it's kind of emblematic of what you're all doing to Iowa. And you had the Kiko technology pellets in your back pocket. Would you tell us, Carter, about what happened?
Yeah, for sure. So we went to Spirit Lake, me and a few teens, alongside with the founder of Kiko, Jim Usugi. And at Spirit Lake, we could talk to some of the residents there. Kind of as children, they used to kind of take boats out in the water all the time, and then kind of gradually over the time from pollution, you kind of see like the water quality became very murky. Also, a lot of algae began forming across the surface of the water. And so we went there. We applied Kiko pellets to it, as well as biochar and also a nutrient solution to it. And so kind of over the time, we saw like the great results of it, helping to clean off the algae. And kind of seeing those results, then kind of we went back home, and I thought, how can I also apply this to my hometown here in the Bay Area?
How long did it take to see results?
Yeah, it's actually overnight. So I tested this at Annabelle Lake and Bishop Ranch. It's kind of an office complex. We did a similar testing with the Kiko
That's
pellet.
out by you, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly, in Bishop Ranch. And we put in the Kiko pellets. They had, once again had algae on the surface of it, and then overnight, within 18 hours, we came back the next day, and the algae on top of the water had gone away. So it's really an amazing technology. I'm hoping kind of to spread it across the world, and so that we can have a much more healthier climate with healthier water.
That's fantastic. I told your mother, Christine, about, and certainly Chris, I told Ella, your father, about a project I was working on. Did I mention it earlier? With a Norwegian sea captain who was very ruddy and very rough to deal with. And he had but he had a great technology which cleaned up a fjord in Norway 20 years ago using this kind of biomatrix frequency technology that you dropped into the water, and it cleaned up. I did mention it, and it brought life to dead zones. And you all probably know how serious this issue is of dead zones in our oceans and our waterways. I mean, this is like we actually get about 50% of our oxygen from the ocean. It's not just from the Amazon and the Congo, which are considered the lungs of the world, of the earth, but also from the ocean. So if the oceans turn from life-giving to death-giving, if you will, we're finished. I mean, that's how dire it is. It's my partner, when I was working in this Norwegian project, kind of scared me. And he said, it's like suffocating. We're living our lives and all of a sudden, like, really? So that was the way we approached that project. It's that dire for all life, human, all sentient life on this planet. So anyway, I'm just a long way of saying I really applaud what you're doing. It's pennies on the dollar in comparison to the millions that thing costs, and much easier. And I reached out to the owner of Kiko some time ago, and I think that there's a lot to it, and there's a lot right here in New York City that I want to get cleaned up too. So we'll talk, as they
Yes,
say.
yeah, sure, we will.
So tell me, are each of you driven by this inspiration to make the world a better place environmentally so we can all live in a better way? Talk to me a little bit about that. Kira, you're muted.
Well, I just said like a better world, just to quote your title here. But I think what initially got me into this was I attended these youth climate action meetings that we were hosting. And they talked about, like, it was wonderful because it was a bunch of different parents and a bunch of different people from the community, and they're all striving for the same thing. And they even had the mayor come in once, and they're talking about these different fights going around in Alameda. And it's like, oh, the water levels are rising and like flooding is happening. And they're talking about ways are they going to try to implement this, how they had previous plans. And I just felt extremely motivated because there are people in my community who are actively fighting. And it was like a small-ish conference room. It was about maybe 25, 30 people. And I'm like, this is a serious thing that could further affect our future. And as a younger generation, I think that we need to stand up and be like, this is our future. This is our lives that are going to be affected. More people should be implementing this. More people should be fighting against this cause. And that's kind of what driven me, and partly Ella as well, to start Ecotech Teens, to start, spreading this information to the younger generation, because this is something that needs to be known.
Oh my God, so well put. It's really true. Needs to be known. So the education that you're offering in general and through the podcast, it's invaluable. And it's really, if you really stay persistent and you're showing all the signs of persistence, because that's the thing. And since you're so into water, there's a beautiful old Chinese proverb that says, water overcomes rock, meaning the soft overcomes the hard. The yin overcomes the yang, if you will, over time. It requires persistence. It's not fast, but it is for sure. And anyway, I don't look Chinese, but I really am. I'm an acupuncturist, and I've been to China, and I've done many different things having to do with ancient Chinese Taoist practices. So these are water practices, quite honestly. And if you look at, you guys are connecting, I'm going to say kind of instinctively, intuitively, and spiritually with what water is. It's not just this thing that flows out of the tap, it's life itself. Am I on something here about how you guys are feeling about it?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think without water, there is no life. And I guess kind of want to say, although this is such a dire issue, I think there's also kind of hope in our world.
Yeah.
Jim, the founder of Kiko, we did a video kind of documenting what we had done at Annabelle Lake. he showed it to monks in Thailand, and then all of a sudden they became interested. They said if the kids are doing it, then we should be doing it too. So they began investing, and also are using now this Kiko technology. So I think it's really amazing how if the kids are doing it, then I think it can motivate people across the world and through all ages also to take part in cleaning up our environment.
I almost think that we're leading us youth leaders in environmental justice want kind of major leaders, world leaders to see what we're doing, take note of it, and see if kids are doing it, why can't we? And why can't we make kind of more drastic global change at kind of that level as well? And so it's that domino effect of the power that one individual has of whatever age, whether you're, in college and high school and middle school, being that domino and kind of making all the other ones fall and kind of taking that step to make change.
Mm.
And
Well,
also the
picture-
other day, we also had a indigenous
Excellent.
tribal chief kind of came out to Annabelle Lake to see kind of what was happening at the lake and perhaps using this Kiko technology all across the state and all across the world as well.
That's wonderful. You all are you're doing what needs to be done. And the Native Americans have a beautiful way of talking about this. On one hand, they talk about the eagle's view, which takes in the larger picture of what's happening on the planet. And they don't get a lot of details, eagles, but they're up and they see, everything, and they embrace and they watch the larger ecosystem, if you will. And then you contrast that with the mouse. The mouse really can't see any of that. It can only see what its little whiskers are touching, the blades of grass right in front of its little nose, and it's a beautiful way of looking at the way we look, if you will. And doing both is actually what's necessary. If you're flying too high, you won't get what's actually happening on the ground. If you're on the ground only and you don't see the larger picture, then you're missing out on other different levels of influence that you may be able to have. And what I'm hearing from all of you in different ways is that you're embracing both. On one hand, you're on the ground in Iowa and beyond. And with the little Kiko pellets, dropping them in the water and measuring. And on the other hand, you're looking at how can we have a larger influence in our world, really the whole world. Would you say so?
Oh, I would agree. And we're going into charter schools, and I think maybe Ella can speak more to that, but at all different levels.
Oh,
Ella,
excellent. I'd
about
love
that
that,
as
Ella.
well.
Yeah, of course. So we started developing our curriculum this summer, right? And just working to build it, like flipping the script and having kids empower other kids, right? With us being the lead and taking charge to try to change the way kids think about these environmental issues and really think about their impact, right? So we're trying to touch on like renewable energy and also like these fossil fuels, but then also like connecting our curriculum to our podcast as well, and like bringing in elements of the bridge blocks and stuff that we talked about with Pong. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Would you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think Kira can expand on that a little bit because she did the interview.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was the conversation that I had with Pong during our first
Okay, you
podcast
have to say
episode.
who Pong is. I mean, I
Oh,
know
sorry.
it, but
Pong
everyone else doesn't.
Pong is, we got connected to them through Ella's dad, and he is a UC Berkeley alumni and inventor of this thing called bridge blocks. And I think, Mr. Rabin, you probably have a lot more information on Pong's background. But he created this thing called bridge blocks, and what it does is it reuses this machinery that's already in recycling yards to turn landfill. So this is going to be like municipal solid waste. I can never pronounce it, but it's
municipal.
like,
It's called
municipal, yeah.
solid waste, exactly, MSW. But it's basically the underlying principle, if you don't mind my just adding, is
Of course.
waste to energy.
Yes.
Well, if you think that that's waste, okay, how can we utilize this maximally? And he came up with this beautiful, interesting invention of building blocks that can build, things, houses, roads, whatever.
And I think my favorite part about that episode and something that we're also implementing into our curriculum and why we're pushing for these students to also watch the episode is he talks about how this thing works, how Bridge Block was created, how it can be used, and like the different ranges. But he also talks about these conflicts that he had, right? He talked about how it was kind of hard for him to implement this into society. And I have a little bit of business in me. I'm in this club called DECA. So this really interested me on how he was like, there are restrictions that are already in place. And I think it's really important for, younger scientists who are very motivated to, yes, come up with these creations, come up with these products that can change the world, but also to consider how the world is actually currently working and if this is something that can be implemented. And that's the second hand of this. And it's really, and he talked about like all these contingencies. And I think it's a really eye-opening perspective overall into the world of environmental technology.
Absolutely. You're wonderfully articulate. What is DECA?
DECA stands for Distributive Educational Clubs of America. It's this business club. We are all over the world, so we all do conferences throughout the state, and we also have an international conference. And there's probably a couple of DECA clubs in high schools in New York as well. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That is fantastic. I used the phrase earlier, maybe before we began, I'm not sure, of eco-entrepreneur, which I've been for a long time. And it's one of the building blocks, if you don't mind my saying, of a better world, because social impact business is sort of where it's at,
100%, 100%. And like, sorry, keep going.
No, go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, like, one of the driving factors for me is why I'm so into technology is it plays like to both hands, right? You, again, what I was saying earlier, you have this technology, but you also need to be an entrepreneur. You need to be able to talk to people to convince them to look into this technology and implement that into the world. And that's like just like another step forward, right?
Exactly. Ella, do you want to add to that?
Kira covered it pretty well. I yeah, I think Kira covered most of it.
Okay,
I
good.
would like to say that green entrepreneur mentality is really important moving forward as we kind of change our economy from hopefully becoming less capitalistic and money centered to more kind of sustainable for the environment and more focused on kind of ecological benefits. And so that mentality is in a really important shift, and it's empowering to see that with the younger generation of kind of slowly seeing that transition of understanding.
Beautiful, beautiful. Can I run something by you and hear what you have to say? We bandy about this word capitalism and socialism, and it's all kind of just words. What we have is people who are generating activity in a marketplace, and they're either going to be kind and generous and compassionate and profitable, or they're going to be these other ways of being, of squeezing and oppressing and trying to squeeze every dollar out of people's labor and all of that stuff, which gives this thing called capitalism a very bad name. But it's really about the people who are using the technology or the method of making business. It's not about the ism, if you will. Are you with me?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's not about the ism. It's
And
about who are we? In other words, there's something called compassionate capitalism,
yes.
and it says, I want to make a profit. I'll go out of business if I don't make a profit. But do I have to make a killing? The problem is with making a killing, people are getting killed. Right?
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. That's the opposite of what we want, And I'm being a little playful when I say that, but it's actually true. And someone is involved in fashion here. Carolyn, I think it's you. Are you getting some tutoring at Stanford? What? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, and it's actually not me. I believe it's Kira who's interested.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Talk to me, because fashion is one of the big polluters, and it's been a field that's been heavily exploited all over the world for cheap labor. And it's
Yeah.
not to make anyone on this Zoom
Mhm.
call cry. So we don't want to cry. Give us a solution.
The solution is, so we recently had a conversation with Dr. Connie, and Ella was in the room when we were filming this episode. I'm sure she can talk about her experience with it. But Dr. Connie really expanded on, she moved away from fast fashion, which is this term that's being thrown around. This is when, big companies like you see at malls and stores like that are producing tons and tons of clothing, and then they're throwing it out before it's even sold just to produce more. And they're trying to keep up with this like kind of societal, kind of like what people want, right? And what Dr. Connie talked about is
people want,
what they think people
or
want.
the
Yeah.
market that they create
Yeah.
using advertising.
And like what Dr. Connie talked about was this idea of a circular clothing economy. And by definition, it is this model of the fashion industry of to reduce waste and pollution and extend the life and durability of clothes and its materials. And I think that's a really interesting fact, right? You have these companies. What if they made high quality clothing out of materials that were extremely durable and came from one place, right? And Dr. Connie was really passionate because she traveled to a bunch of different continents and looked at how clothes are being made. And she's like, if you look at the tag, right, you see made in, for example, made in India, right? And there's a bunch of different blends. But that could just mean that it was created in India and it was woven together. But where are these fabrics actually coming from? They could have been shipped from place to place. And that carbon emission from shipping all these textiles over is just unbelievable. And so she said, if we follow this path of a circular clothing economy, if we as a person just keep the clothing, if we repair it, if we fix it, wear it, and then go to a thrift store and buy it, like these little things that we can implement to our lives are impactful. And these could really make a difference if we all just kind of followed that model.
So true. What look like little things are actually not little at all.
Yeah.
They're enormous. I got to refer you all to a wonderful little video. And by the way, your videos that I saw, Carter, you've got a future.
Thank you so much.
Really, really well done. It's called The Story of Stuff, if you don't know it. The Story of Stuff. And it will tell you in an animated version all that you were just saying, and the way we waste, and the shipping costs, and the labor costs, and all of that stuff. And you go, oh my God, there's a better way. Well, you guys are coming up with better ways, and I really appreciate what each one of you is doing to create a better world, if I may use the phrase. And I think that this is going to be the first of a series of episodes, because you are all moving along your path toward creating that, and you're working with water, and you're speaking to people, and I'm going to be working at getting you to the UN so you have a bigger megaphone to more people, and I'll bring you, the Institute of Global Education, which will also give you a bigger megaphone. And so a better world is going to help you as best I can to do your job and get your word out, because I think really highly of what you're doing.
Thank you. Gosh, we always say that a we not me mentality is how kind of gives the best deliverable, especially with environmental justice work. And so we love collaborating and working with other leaders and key initiatives in this space, because that really creates a better world that we want to see for our kind of children and for our future, for the next generation. So passing that on is so wonderful. Thank you, Mitchell, for having us. This has been such a wonderful
pleasure.
Dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you for each of your contributions here today. It really makes a difference. And I'm just so happy to have met you and to be able to support what you're doing. And I can also feed you, because I've got actually a fair amount of experience in the space, because I've been an environmentalist all my life. I grew up in Connecticut, and I remember seeing the smokestacks in a neighboring town billowing black smoke. And I got sick, not from inhaling, at seeing it. And I turned to my own father and I said, "What's going on, Dad? Is this for real? Is this legal?" It's certainly not ethical. And that started me on this path when I was about 14. And I've been on it ever since, because taking care of the earth is to also take care of each other.
Well
Not
said.
separate, you know? Thank you all for being here today. And we'll
Sure.
talk soon.
We'll
Thank you
talk
for
soon.
having us.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk to you. Thank you for having us.
You.
Absolutely.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
This is Mitchell J. Rabin for a Better World. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I mean, to see these youth stepping up and dealing very sanely and soberly and consciously with the serious issues we are facing as a planet, when so many adults just hide and make believe it's not happening. They are seeing what needs to be done and they're doing it. So I'm deeply grateful. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.